Hello, and welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Mary, and this is Beth, and we're part of the team at Writing Magazine and Writers Online. Hi, Beth, how are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm really good today, thanks. I'm really excited about this second book club episode. Every month we choose a book that was featured in the latest issue of Writing Magazine to read and have a chat about. Today it's the fantastic The Best of Everything by Kit de Waal, the well-known British-Irish writer. Her debut novel, My Name is Leon, was published in 2016 after securing the publishing deal with Penguin. De Waal used some of her advance to set up the Kit de Waal Creative Writing Scholarship to help improve working class representation in the arts.
Kit's new novel, The Best of Everything, is published this month, and it's beautiful. The story of Paulette, a single mother to a sonbird who finds her life becomes tangled with that of another little boy, Nellie. It's a quietly devastating book about kindness and its power to change lives. Kit de Waal was our star interview for the June edition of Writing Magazine, and I just want to read a little bit of her article before we get going. There's not enough kindness in the world, says Kit, but I think there's a lot of it and we don't see it. The insatiable appetite in the media for bad news and strife overshadows the nice things. I want to write about the unseen, unasked good people. It would be nice to concentrate on the good things. There's so much misery in the world. An optimistic book is more needed than ever. Kit says her writing is always character-based and about responding to and creating a feeling. It always starts with a character, and very often it starts with a song. I'll hear a song and it gives me a particular feeling. I do have it about a book, a feeling, and if I can make another people feel that feeling, that's what I'm aiming for. With this one, it's kindness and yearning, a definite sense of yearning. It's Paulette yearning to love and to be seen and to give love. Grief is love with nowhere else to go. I think that's what it is for Paulette. When Denton dies and she's got all this love that hasn't got anywhere to go, I want people to understand that you have this whole reservoir to give and nowhere to give it.
We'd recommend reading the whole article and also the book before listening to this episode, as there will be spoilers in this chat. And we're also thrilled to have a guest with us today on this book club episode, Eden Barnes. Eden is the owner and chief bookseller at Next Chapter Books in the Corn Exchange in Leeds. Hi, Eden.
Hi, it's so great to be here. I'm very excited to join your book club chat.
Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to come and chat with us. I'm really excited about this chat.
Yeah, it'd be great. And since I finished this, I've been telling all my customers to pick it up in store as well.
Oh, amazing. So you would recommend it then, I guess?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I would say I would recommend this to, it's one of those that you almost want to recommend it to everybody because you think there's something that everybody can get out of it. I think that it's a really sort of nice, steady story. I read it in basically a day and a half because it's got this great time jumping that so you always want to know what's happening more, but you're so desperate for the protagonist Paulette to do well. You just really want that to come through on all the pages. So yeah, that story of hope and yearning, I think that's a beautiful way to describe it. So yes, would recommend.
And how did you find the author's writing style? Was it easy or hard to read? And how long did it take you to get into the book?
I got into it very quickly. Yeah, as I said, read it in a couple of days, which at the moment with the bookshop has been a little bit hard. I've been in a little bit of a reading slump because there's been so much other stuff going on. So I got into it very easily. I think the short chapters and knowing that the next chapter you were going to jump a couple of years maybe or find out what happened next really kept me engaged throughout it. How about you?
Yeah, I think she's got a really lovely writing style. I think she's a very visual writer. So the way that she describes people, I think we both love the way that she described Frank as Mr. Shirt and Tie. You can just see him. And then there was another great line, I've written it down somewhere. It says she was wearing shoes so sensible they could pass at A-level maths. There's a humor in there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it helped me get into it straight away because there was just so many like twists and turns that I wasn't expecting because I didn't know much about the book before picking it up. I obviously like read the blurb and read a little bit about what to expect, but I was a bit like when Denton died, I was like, oh my God, okay, now what's gonna happen? And then the fact that he had like a double life, I was like, again, well, this is going crazy. Like I need a break. But it definitely helped the speed of the book, and it literally hooked me as soon as I picked it up.
I think it's really clever to do that in the first few chapters to like something so big, and she's already managed to paint such a picture of Denton and Paulette. By the time you get to that, you're already like, how is this the start of the book? Where are we going to go from here? So I thought that was like a really brilliant way to get the reader hooked from the start.
Yeah, definitely, because I think that was within like the first 20 pages or so as well. So Yeah, really right at the beginning of the book.
Who was your favourite character? Did you identify with any of the characters? Were there any characters that you disliked?
I really liked Maggie. Yeah, I think that when they have the sort of blip later on in the book, I actually think that's like what a good friend is, to try and like sort of pull you out of those bad times and sort of give you that reality check. There's also just a beautiful bit where Maggie talks about Paulette, and that you're either the candle or the mirror, you either give light or reflect light from people, and that Paulette is both. And I think throughout the book, I sort of I hope that I want to embody both bits of Paulette and Maggie, and that I want to be that tough love to my friends, but also I want to be that light as well. So I think they were just such a beautiful pair together. And I'm so glad that they end up sort of making friends at the end. And we all need that friend in our life that'll give us the real reality check when things aren't, when we feel like things aren't going our way. How about you both?
Yeah, I loved Maggie. She's sounds like she's had a bit of a hard life, bit of a been knocked around a bit. You know, some of the things she says. She says something like, Maggie said, men have 1,000 lies, but only one truth, and the truth is they always come first. I think that's why she sees Paulette, she sees her struggling, you know, and she's like, come on, you've got to get yourself sorted and get on with this. And she's having her there's a point in the book, isn't there, where she takes herself off to bed for quite a while, Paulette, and she needs that person, like you said, to come and pull her out of it.
Yeah, it's almost like giving her the hard truth, isn't it, a little bit? She needs a bit of tough love to help her get out. I think Maggie was probably my favourite as well, to be fair, for exactly the same reasons as you guys. It just felt like she was really invested. And like, I feel like everyone needs a neighbour that just cares. And you don't see that very often nowadays, do you? Where, I mean, I don't even know my neighbour's name. You just don't have that time in your day to interact with people as much as what you did back then. So
a lot of the book is about that, because when Mr. Shirt and Tie and Nellie come into her life, it's because she's aware of other people, isn't it? I think she's got this amazing empathy. And obviously that's such an amazing scene where he basically asks her to take this little boy, and he's this sad little slip of a boy, isn't he, looking up at her with these big sad eyes. And I've loved that scene so much. And she goes home and you know she's not going to leave it. But
it says a lot about her character, doesn't it? Absolutely. And I think she's such a kind person. She just wants to make everyone happy. And I think at parts during the book, that's what frustrated me so much, because I just thought, especially like when Garfield was taking her son to America, and she kind of just sat with her emotions. She didn't kick off about it because she just thought, okay, well, that, like, she almost thinks to herself that she's got no say in it, so what's the point? And to me, I'm thinking, like, no, stick up for yourself. Come on, man. Like, you've got this. Like, be this. Like, she's obviously such a strong woman, and she needs to. I was getting frustrated at points because I was thinking, just speak up and just like have your own back and be selfish for once. But she just couldn't do it.
yeah,
I really resonated with that frustration. I was like, surely you can do something about this. But I think that's what makes it somewhat of like a period piece of, like, you know, late 1900s, because it's, even in the sort of 20, 30, 40 years since this is set, we've made such advancements in that women just stick up for themselves a bit more, and rightly so. Because yeah, I was getting frustrated. I was like, Paulette, you were better than this. But she obviously felt so powerless, and that was, you know, that was the race, and where she felt like she sat in society. I think it's told beautifully that, yeah, she just never felt like she had the power to stick up for herself, particularly to men or in society. I think that frustration was definitely an emotion that really struck with me. Was there emotions from the book that you felt too?
I felt with that, I just wanted to say that she talks a lot about wanting to have what everyone else has. And I think that is probably still a thing with young women today, that you do want you know, if you want to have children, you want that sort of the man and the house and the babies. And then that can almost get in the way of getting what you need. So she has a career, but it's not, she hasn't really pushed it. And she's settled into being a mother. And then suddenly, you know, she's got this one son and he leaves, he goes to America. And that's kind of what throws her out, I think. And then that's the really hard bit and the really difficult bit, I think, to read. But then she does save herself in the end, doesn't she? She goes back and she gets some more qualifications. And I think she says at the end that she made herself a future. I think that's often, you know, we're trying to have everything, but you actually can't have everything. And maybe you have the bits in different parts of your life. I found it really powerful, that bit.
Yeah. There's little bits of like, it's like Maggie, there's sort of little guardian angels as it goes on. There's her boss that sort of sends her home and says, you're taking 2 weeks off, like pull yourself together. And it was sort of a nice, hopeful story when I read it, of like, sometimes you don't know that someone's doing right by you, but there's other people looking out for you, even if you don't know that they are. And we should feel thankful for that. So yeah, it was a good reminder of the sort of the joy of looking out for one another, to me.
Absolutely. And what did you think about the ending? Obviously, just touching on that briefly just then, Mary. How did it make you feel? Like once you got to the end, were you relieved and you're like, ugh, you can finally breathe and stop worrying about her a little bit?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the last quite a few chapters actually I read with tears streaming down my face.
Oh,
So I was so invested in them, and I so wanted Cornelius to find his thing and to be happy. And that was such a beautiful scene where he tells her that he's going to go. Does he go to catering college, or is he doing that before? And that was something that she'd shown him, this love through food. That's kind of how she loves people. And then he wanted to take that on. And she said, oh, and she'd always had this plan of taking her son back home to show him the island that she came from. And then in the end, it was Cornelius that she was going to take, and she was going to show him the the cookery and the island life. And so that was kind of the idea of making your own family. It doesn't have to be blood. Um, obviously she still loves her son, but she's also got this other really important relationship in her life with Nellie. So I thought that was, it did seem like the future was bright for everybody, I think, by the end of it.
yeah, I totally agree. It was so nice to kind of, like you say, be able to picture what like a happy life for her, because throughout the entire book you just don't see her really getting out of that slump, and you just think, oh, she's always gonna be this person who doesn't care too much about herself and just wants to make other people happy. And to see her finally give herself that grace and be like, yes, I'm going to do something for myself, it was so refreshing and yeah, it just made me feel so like hopeful about the rest of her life, which was really nice.
Yeah, she goes through a phase where she's dating, doesn't she? And she's picking these guys that aren't that great for her. And then she says, she decides that he must add value to her life and not subtract it. And that seems so obvious. But I think a lot of people in general make that mistake where they're looking for someone else to add things to their life that they need, but actually the message is that you make that life, you make yourself happy and decide what you want.
The ending, it did make me sad that her son, Curtis Bird, I did feel like he just had totally abandoned her. And yes, he'd maybe followed what was right for him, but that ultimately left me with a very sad feeling. And I am really glad that she sort of found sort of comfort in Nellie being almost a second child for her. But yeah, that felt a bit unresolved in terms of him not having his, he's a child, he's done what's best, and his family's done what's best for him, but still he didn't have any sort of repercussions for just leaving his mum to it. And yeah, that made me feel a bit sad that she never got that time again with him, or we never heard about that time again with him.
Yeah, he'd never lacked a maternal figure in his life, had he? Unlike Cornelius. So I guess he took her for granted. He didn't realize
Yeah.
all the things that she did for him.
Yeah, the bit where he calls his stepmother mum, in like, well, she overhears it. It was so sad. That was definitely got me a bit with emotion. Must have been so difficult, and it just made me feel sort of endlessly sad for Paulette, but glad that she turned it round by the end.
Yeah, that scene really stuck with me actually. The fact that she didn't say anything again, I thought just walk in and make them feel uncomfortable. But she didn't want to put anybody else in that situation. So she kind of just took the burden herself and just kind of sat with it and didn't really speak to anybody.
The title of the book comes in there as well, the best of everything, because that's what she wants for everyone, isn't it? Especially for her son. She wants him to have the best of everything. So he's gone to America. He's living in this nuclear family with his father, his new family, and he's got, the best trainers. And so I guess she feels like he's set up to have the best of everything, but again, totally overlooks herself, realize that she also deserves the best of everything.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well the age of her son as well. It's very common, should I say, or it's very normal for a teenager to be completely obsessed with all the materialistic things, and as he didn't have that growing up, he's then gone to America and he's like completely forgotten about her, because one, he's a teenager and he's probably thinking, what are parents? I'd rather be with my friends and be cool. But also he's got all of this stuff that he never had, so he's like you say, he's completely taken her for granted and just thought, oh yeah, well, my life's better now. So but yeah, so I think that was something, like Ian said, that just really stuck with me, and I felt a bit disappointed still that relationship hadn't been solved.
I wonder if he also grew up feeling Paulette's sadness, though, and that was actually a bit of a weight for him to carry. And I'm not saying it's right, but this new life with his dad and everyone's happy, it's the sort of the easier option. What did you think of the writing? And did you find any standout sentences?
I loved the bit about the candle and the mirror. That's definitely really stuck with me. I think there's a scene, actually, the writing that I thought was brilliant, where Shirt and Tie is trying to tell Paulette something. I don't think that's, in my mind, is ever really resolved what he's trying to tell her. I think he's looking for forgiveness, and there isn't a sort of ultimate secret reveal. But the pace of the conversation in that section was really stand out to me, and how you can convey that through a page of, like, you can feel Paulette being like, he's trying to say, look, listen to me, and she's, no, not interested, and you can really feel those like emotions back and forth. And I think that's like very clever writing. To, you read it almost like this thrilling conversation where nothing really happens, but you can feel the emotion throughout it. So I thought, yeah, lots of those interactions with Paulette and Shirt and Tie really highlighted how the dialogue was so brilliantly written between them, and that you could really visualize them as people. How about you?
I love that scene, actually, and she says something like that he was telling her his life story with himself plumb in the center as per usual. And she's so frustrated with him because, yes, he's got a lot of sadness, but I think she feels like, yeah, everyone's got sadness, and actually you need to get over yourself and look at this little boy who's in your charge now. That's where you need to put your energy, not in feeling sorry for himself, which is ultimately what he does. I think he's a very sad character throughout the whole thing, isn't he? Like, you feel for him, but you're also so frustrated with him.
And you also feel as well, not to forget, that he's caused her that sadness as well. And like, we don't hate him for it, we're not angry at him for it, but he doesn't seem to take on much responsibility at some points with it. He just kind of is like, yeah, it happened, and now I'm just going to be like sad for the rest of my life. And he doesn't really try and do anything to help himself. But that's why him and Paulette are quite similar, because she's also like wallowing in self-pity as well, and she's also, like you say, she spends that period of time just kind of in bed, not really doing much, and it takes obviously like Maggie and support to get her out of that. But you don't really see, when you get to the end of the book, how Frank's kind of like where he's going to go from there.
Yeah, that's true. What's his life going to be like now? I think it's definitely, I mean, his life improves massively once that comes into it, but I don't know. But she can't, again, you can't make someone pull themselves out of that. You can encourage, but he has to do that work himself.
I wish there was a little bit more time given to it, also exploring Nelly, and when he tries on his mother's clothes. I think that that was almost a strand in itself that I could have read many more pages about, sort of understanding a bit more of that. But I think it just ultimately goes back to the whole premise, and the sort of what I took away from the book is that everybody is flawed in different ways. You can be the kindest, most loving person, and you still have flaws and ups and downs, and we need to sort of search for forgiveness for people. But I thought that was definitely a theme and a part of the book that I wanted a couple more chapters to understand a bit more about that. Was any themes that sort of really stuck with you both on the book?
There was something that Maggie said about being too busy being here and now to be there and then. And I thought that was basically saying what a lot of wellness podcasts will say now about being in the present moment. And I think that was the difference, really. Paulette was trying to create this perfect life and this perfect idea of what it should be. And Maggie kind of embraced the messiness of her own life and you know, the fact that her kids were loud and messy, she was kind of okay with that, wasn't she? And in contrast, Paulette's house was so neat and tidy, and everything was so sort of held really tightly, I guess.
You see that a lot in the at the start of the book, don't you? When she's with Denton, is then they're spending all this time together, but all she's talking about and all she's thinking about is, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have babies, we're gonna have this life, but she's missing red flags along the way because she's too busy picturing this dream life with him. And I think actually one of the scenes that really stuck with me was when she went to his grave. Was it the wife that turned up, and she knew all about it, and it was just a bit of a like realization moment for her, weren't it, to be like, oh, he did actually genuinely have this life. It's in her head the whole time. It's just been what she's been told. Oh yeah, he's got this double life, and yeah, he's got family, he's got kids, but she's never actually really seen that for herself. Whereas when she finally meets her, it's almost comes to realization for her that, oh wait, this stuff actually has happened. It's a bit of closure for her in a way.
Yeah, I think she never really addresses, she goes into mourning him, doesn't she? And she says things like that the accident took away the life that she was going to have, and she doesn't really address the fact that she was never going to have that life because he was already married and he was just, you know, stringing her along. And but she still talks about it like that was what was going to happen. So it's really sad in that way.
Yeah, that's a very good point. She also just never quite realizes what she deserves when she meets the bus driver, Jimmy, and spends time with him. And she knows from the outset that it's behind his wife's back, and it's, you sort of links back to that frustration of, you're doing it again, Paulette. You know what hurt this will lead to, and it does ultimately. And you're just desperate for her to meet someone lovely and get what she wants, because that grief of Denton, I think, is throughout every action that Paulette takes. I feel like that's there.
Because she never lived with him and the relationship didn't really go anywhere, he never became anything other than this magical creature to her, I think. And so I think that was really hard for her. It wasn't like she lived with him for 20 years and had to pick his pants up off the floor, and you know, he's always going to be this amazing creature in her mind, I think. What did you think of the Garfield character? He was interesting.
I felt like to me, he was quite one-dimensional through a lot of it, and I think that was probably a device in that we weren't meant to care a lot about him, because I really just didn't. I didn't like that he took the son away. I felt like he wanted to be this great dad, but never really sort of fulfilled that, other than when he took him to America and bought all these things. I also think that he had a bit of longing for Paulette that wasn't as explored, because Paulette just did not love him. And it was maybe the one moment in the book that she actually did something for herself and was like, I don't love this man. Yes, he's given me this amazing child that I love dearly, but actually he is not the right man for me. And that is, I wish she'd had a bit more of that in some of the rest of the book.
Do you think that the book could be made into a movie, and who would you cast in the leading roles?
Oh,
I'm not sure if it would make a good movie or TV adaptation, because there's so many little unsaid things in it. I feel like they wouldn't be able to do it justice, but
yeah, I like that because it's not a movie or TV or anything. I like the fact that we can picture it in our heads, what we think these people are going to look like and what we think her house looks like, and everything like that. So I feel like you say, if I was to actually see it, I'd probably be disappointed. Like, it wouldn't ever amount to what I've got in my head.
Yeah. And that ultimate message of like hope and kindness, I think, would get lost in a movie or TV. I think they have to be, they need to be a bit more gritty and things to happen. And actually, the beauty of this is that, yes, there's plenty of events that happen, but the beauty is in those smaller, quieter moments that you sort of realise the kindness is power when it comes to Paulette. I actually I've read recently, I don't know if either of you read it, but Patsy by Nicole Dennis Benn. And these books would almost suit each other really well in terms of that space in America, but tells that similar sort of story of immigration and hope and kindness and making a way for yourself in a sort of different world almost. So less so TV and film, but coupling it with another book I often like to do, of comparing the different stories and the lovely characters.
What was that, Patsy by?
Patsy by, I'm looking at it on my shelf in my bookshop. It's Nicole Dennis Benn. I read it for a book club I had with some friends. And yeah, it was another sort of beautiful read. It's Caribbean immigrant to New York. It tells us sort of her 20-year story, and it's similar to this in that world building and women having to sort of fight for themselves in 1960s and 70s in these new worlds that they're building.
That sounds brilliant. I've written that on my ever expanding list.
That's the thing we're doing this podcast, isn't it? Is our list of books to read is just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, same with owning a bookshop. Customers
I
all
can
the time
imagine.
telling me great books, and I'm like, got no time, need more time to read.
Have you got a book in the shop for people to write down their recommendations?
Yes, I do. I have my community journal, which people love filling in. It's the first one is almost full, and I've only been open almost 3 months now. So people write down lots of recommendations, and every week I check it for great ones and write little notes like, I agree, I loved this too. So that's a really great way for everyone to get more for that ever expanding TBR list.
I love that, because when you think about reading, sometimes it can be quite like a solo hobby, can't it? So actually having that and being able to make it almost like into a community and having these book clubs and stuff, it really helps like everybody to be able to talk about it and share it together. If I read a good book, I swear I've got like 4 Facebook pages that I'm in that I'm like, everybody needs to read this, and people will reply and say, oh yeah, I've read this, it's great, what did you think about this part? And it's just so nice to be able to have that community with other people.
Yeah, it's a really lovely part of being in the bookshop. Being able to, once I'd finished this, being like it's at our front section, which is our current favourites, and being able to tell people I've literally just finished that, you just like pick it up, you'll really enjoy it. I think it's a great summer read as well, because summer reads to me can sometimes, with the best of everything, be a bit more about like escapism or a bit simpler, but this actually feels like a really nice read that you'll get through, but also leaves you with a really lasting impact. And that's my favourite sort of quick read or easier read.
Yeah, me too. It's not sort of fluffy, or
no,
there's a lot of depth in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were telling me that you've got some book clubs happening at the shop. Did you want to tell people a little bit?
Yes. So at Next Chapter Books, we're in Corn Exchange. We do 2 book clubs at the moment, a contemporary fiction one and a romantasy one. So people can find out a bit more about those on our website or on our Instagram. But yeah, we've just launched our next romantasy one, which will be The Crimson Moth. I've got a romantasy expert who runs that. That's not my expertise, but I do run the contemporary fiction one. We've just finished Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, one of my favourite authors. And then next time around, our May one, if people want to check it out, we're going to do a vote on Instagram. At the moment, I'm sort of toying up between a few books, but I want it to be a democracy rather than me just picking books that I absolutely adore every time. But yeah, it's a really, really fun way to, we had a great group of 20 last night, lots of different opinions, really nice space to sort of share what you really think. And also, like, what's better than meeting new bookish friends? That's my favourite part.
It sounds amazing. And what's the Instagram handle for people?
It is Next Chapter Books Leeds.
Well, thank you, everybody. That was a really lovely chat. I'm glad you both enjoyed the book as much as I did.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Again, it's been a great chat. It's been nice to take a bit of time out of my day on a Friday as well to just have a chat.
Better than chatting about books.
And if you go to Eden's lovely shop, you can have a lovely coffee as well while you browse around and look at books. So perfect.
Look forward to seeing you there.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.